You know, Sonic Youth, through the years, has always retained a relationship with visual artists, and it's never been something that we've done for the sake of design. It's always been more of a more sort of as a friendly gesture. I mean, these were just friends of ours who were doing art, and it was never based on any celebrity these artists had at all. In fact, working with somebody, like Raymond Pettibone, he's become such a published artist and such a blue chip gallery artist now. I mean, when we first met Raymond, he was basically just doing these small Xeroxed, stapled magazines of his drawings that he was selling through SST Records, which was Black Flag's label, and you could only find them in certain punk rock record stores. And we immediately responded to him when we got him. I mean, we kind of were into what was going on in Los Angeles with the whole sort of punk rock scene, but Raymond kind of had this really kind of exploded view of it, and his images were really loaded, and with this really kind of biting kind of sociologic and political kind of satire, and they were very dark, a lot of them, and some of them were actually very humorous, but they were always very intriguing and evocative. When we first signed to a major label, we knew that we wanted to use Raymond to do the cover, and he did the cover for a record called Goo, which was, in a way, the last thing any major label would want for a record cover was this kind of black pen drawing, somewhat crude, But again, even at that time, Raymond wasn't really sort of known in any kind of established art world, and that really started developing when European galleries started showing some of his work, and I mean now Raymond is he's one of the most seriously considered contemporary artists, I think, that I know of. And again, I mean, just being so it's going, and I've always sort of been really interested in book arts, and when we do these CD booklets, and before that when we do album covers or whatever, to me they were always sort of kind of extensions of making an art book or making some kind of artist book of some sort. And I mean, one of the first jobs I had in New York was at a place called Printed Matter, which was primarily artists making artist books and selling them in a store. So it's always been sort of part of my fascination is how art and literature and music really sort of conjoin, and a lot of that really kind of manifests itself in book form, and especially now where you have books that have such a musical quality to them, to the point where actually people put CDs or DVDs in them. But even, I mean, look, being in Serpentine Gallery's bookstore, I mean, it's fantastic to walk around and it's just sort of see books by people like Christopher Wohl, I mean, who did our last record cover, Rather Ripped. And this is a book I've never seen before, which I will probably purchase, because I really do like archiving and books by certain artists I feel sort of have a fascination for me as far as what their work is and how it kind of relates to the work that Sonic Youth or myself have done through the years. And in a way, for me, they're kind of personal documents, and they're sort of friendship documents. But then, there's a lot of artists who do books that I don't know who they are. I don't know who these artists, but I know that they interest me in the same way that rock stars interest me. I mean, the last time I was here, I bought a book by Lucy Mackenzie, and it was sort of more of a collectible, rarefied book. And I don't really know this woman, but I was sort of interested in what her work is, even though I can't really sort of figure out what her work is. I think she's a conceptual artist, and I know she had some involvement with a friend of mine named Richard Kern, who used to take photos in very challenging ways of people, and I know she was one of his subjects, and that was kind of interesting to me, but certainly. And then, but I had seen a photo of her in art form as a writer. She wrote some pieces in art form, and her author photo was really fascinating to me. It was very sort of serious, kind of boyish kind of look, and from that alone, I was kind of like became very sort of interested in like what this person does as a creative artist, as a visual artist. So something like that is very common in a way, where I sort of follow leads that are very sort of personality driven in a way before I even, has nothing really to do with their work, and then I sort of discover their work. Of course, I think that's sort of normal for most people. I think some people come in to discovering people's art sometimes from first seeing the art. I mean, certainly an artist is celebrated as like Tracy Emin is in England. I mean, when she had her first shows in New York, I remember going to see that show and being instantly like, well, who could this person be? And of course, it kind of paid off because she was a very sort of dynamic personality in a way. But I didn't. Sometimes when things get too celebrated in the culture, you tend to sort of back off a little bit because it becomes this thing where it becomes a little too popular, and that becomes a little bit of a anathema in a way. It gets out of your own sort of personal kind of space in a way, and it's not too many people who can sort of transcend that in a way. I mean, certainly somebody, I guess, like Andy Warhol can transcend that to some degree. Or somebody like Allen Ginsberg, I think, who again was primarily a literary figure, but always had this kind of visual kind of art activity going on. Anyway. But coming to a bookstore like this is always is great in a way, because you always think you can have it all now, by accessing things online, and it's like, well, I'm interested in Jeff Wall, so I'll just like go online and find everything there's by Jeff Wall, but there's something so tactile about what's going on with literature and book arts and artist work that doesn't. It's not a successful move to do that. You have to sort of come to the place where the books are. So it's not like it's not like my laptop has Christopher Wall like pop up every time something new is like kind of in his name is published or something like that. So, I would never want that to be the case anyway. So it's great to sort of come here and all of a sudden sort of see something like that and go like, oh goody.